to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Pudel. It's the Tier 6 Polish medium tank. It's located on the northeast spawn of Province, and this one is under the command of PGTraitor. Well, yes, it does look like a Panther, or rather more like a VK3002M, but it is in fact a Polish tank, and oh yes, look at this, we've got no sound. Unfortunately, no engine noises, but we do get everything else. Okay, well, it is basically a VK3002M, but with less rounds. Yes, you actually get more ammunition with the VK because it actually has 95 rounds, whereas you only get 81 with the Pudel and 79 with the Baguette, the Britann Panther. It's armed with a 75mm gun. It's capable of doing 135 alpha and penetrating 150mm of armor with quite a high shell velocity of 925 meters per second. So it is a Panther by any other name, but it was of course captured. Two of them were captured by the Poles, and they put their colours on it and fought in the Warsaw Uprising. So, let's see what he's going to do with this one. Unlike his teammates who are staying to shoot at the enemy over the other side of the valley, he's decided to move up close and try and get as close to the enemy as possible and shoot at them. 75mm gun is a very high velocity gun. It's pretty good actually. Oh, he spotted an enemy behind him. The Chaffee managed to get all the way round. Cheeky thing. He's auto-aimed on, and there goes the Chaffee. The kill shot goes to the Skoda T25. But he did take a couple of rounds from the Chaffee. That's unfortunate. And they now know that he's here, so obviously he's likely to take fire. And yes, the SU-8 managed to get around nearby. Only lost 90 hit points though. That could have been a lot worse, especially if it hit and penetrated, because this thing doesn't have a lot of armor. Got 100mm on the front of the turret and 85 on the front of the hull, but the sides are 50 and 45 respectively, and 40mm on the hull armor at the back and 45 at the back of the turret. So it doesn't have a whole lot of armor. It could be penetrated by Arty if they can get the shell in the right spot. Now for tank drivers, the weakest spot of course is that big cupola. It's very, very soft indeed. And we'll see that when it comes to the armor. It appears that most of the enemy tanks have gone over the map, and the only ones we've got over here are the ones that are too slow to get over, and that is a VK3002M, and I think he's an AFK. He's not moving even though we're hitting him, and so we'll just extract all the juice out of him, take his hit points, and there you go, got the first kill. Always like seeing AFKs because, well, I know that it means that they couldn't load into the game, but some people just load into the game and don't even bother to play the game. They actually hope that they can actually improve their position merely by letting other people carry the load. That Tog 2, he's in a whole world of trouble now, and that's the second kill, but the Arty, yeah, that was a much closer shot, that one. I think that one landed, yes it did, on the front and upper plate, so in that sense, actually, he was lucky because it could have been a lot worse. There's 3 Arty on the enemy team, an M44, an SU-8, and a Fifi. And he's going to try and find them. And he's been spotted, probably by the Fifi. And there's the Fifi. And now crumbs, he's coming all 3 at the same time. He's gone for the ram on the Fifi. Now, he does get a lot of damage. One shot of the gun shield to take him out. The others are all turning to face him. He pumps one into the M44, gets a bit from the ram and takes him out. The SU-8 couldn't hit him because the Fifi was in the way, but now he's going to take the SU-8 out because of course he's reloading. And that's a Demetrius medal. Does take a round from a 5916 and a Striv M42. In fact, the enemy vehicles are the ones over the other side of the valley, and they're firing back in this direction, desperately trying to make amends. But I think they've left it a little too late, and the 5916 is now tracked. Takes a second shot after he repairs his repair kit, but he gets taken out by the third. And that's the Top Gun. So, not bad actually. There's only 3 enemies left, and it seems like PGTraitor is the one who's actually been carving the enemy to pieces. So, who's next? Where do we go next? Well, we've got one tank, a VK2801, down by the cap area, and we could leave it to him to do the necessary, but I think it'd be best if we chased after the enemy and finished off those last... Well, there's only 2 left now. And those 2 are an AMX 12 ton and an AMX ELC Biz. There he is, the ELC, Engin Léger de Combat, or light tank. Gonna get him here. Oh, much better shot there. He led the target, and the kill shot goes to the Skoda T25, and that is the end of the battle. That was a very brief battle indeed, and it was brief because PGTraitor pushed as hard as he could, of course, to try and get at the enemy and extract as many hit points, whilst the enemy was pushing over to the other side of the map, and they left their own side undefended, and that's why PG was able to get through as quickly as he did. He got an ace tanker in the Pudel in that game, as well as a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. In fact, he got 7 in that one. He also got a Hand of God for surviving the battle, having received damage from 4 different enemies, a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle, and a shell proof for blocking more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle. He managed to get a Dimitrius medal because he killed 3 enemy SPGs, and it's going to be increasingly difficult to get a Dimitrius after they do the changes in 1.18, because Wargaming will be only putting 2 Artys in most battles, so at the best you're probably going to get is a Pascucci's, and if there's only 1 Arty, you won't be getting any reward just for killing an Arty. Steel Wolf for blocking the most damage, getting at least 11 hits, or receiving at least 11 hits, and blocking at least 1,000 hit points of potential damage, as well as a High Caliber for dealing the most damage in that game, and a Top Gun for getting at least 6 kills. He ended up with 6 exactly. Let's have a look at the team score. Well, we can see that the highest damage was actually 2,851. The second highest damage came from the Type 64. Didn't survive the battle, but he got 2,042 hit points of damage. And the third highest went to the Skoda T25, and he was fairly active, 1,533 hit points. When it came to kills, yep, it's PGTraitor again. Got 6 kills in that one, 3 of them Arty. 3 kills went to the Skoda T25, and 2 kills went to the VK2801. And everyone else either just got 1 kill or nothing at all. And when it came to base XP, yeah, he's got that one as well. So he's got the top in all 3 columns. 1,423, which is a very nice ace tanker for PGTraitor. 1,070 went to the Type 64, so he was over 1,000 as well. Those are the only 2 players over 1,000. The next highest being the Skoda, who got 723. And, well, yes, he didn't do a huge amount of damage, but I think it was probably because he was hitting same tier opponents and wasn't getting a lot of spotting. The Type 64 did get 1,082 spotting, and that's why his XP is slightly higher than the Skoda, who actually didn't get any... well, actually, no, it shows here he got 343 spotting, so yes, he did get some, but not a lot, and that's why he was far further down the table. PGTraitor fired 28 rounds in that game, got 23 direct hits on the enemy and 21 penetrations. 1 splash, damage of 2,851 hit points, of which 1,124 were at more than 300 meters, so slightly less than half of his damage was done at long range. 11 hits received from the enemy, only 2 of which actually penetrated, 7 non-penetrations, and 3 hits by way of splash damage. Yes, he did get hit by that SU-8 twice. And so, yes, that wasn't very good, but the second shot was, of course, the better of the 2, because it actually did hit his vehicle, but unfortunately it hit the upper plate, and that's where the armor is actually quite strong. 1,035 hit points of damage blocked by armor, 5 enemy vehicles spotted, 9 enemy vehicles damaged, 6 killed, 456 hit points of spotting assist. He earned 46,950 credits from the game, and after repair and ammunition respawn, just used standard ammo in that one, 64,658 credits profit. 1,423 XP, times 5 for the first victory, 1,068 for tactical training, and he got 641 for this being a premium vehicle you actually have to buy. and 12,384 credits, experience points, I should say, altogether. So, a very good game in the Pudel. Let's have a quick look at the armor profile for this thing. It is basically a BK3002 by any other name. That's exactly what it is. It's got the same figures and the same stats, although there are a few obvious changes, which I did mention. The armor, the shells. You get 95 shells in a BK3002M. You only get 81 in the Pudel, 79 in the Baguette, the Britann Panther. You actually get 150 shells, and that's in the Panzer Fünfer. That's not really a Panther. It is a Panther hull, but it's got a Panzer IV turret. So obviously the shells, although they're still 75mm, they've probably got more room for them. And, or at least that's my excuse. That's what I'm saying. The Panther, actually, the real Panther, the Tier 7 one, actually has 80 shells. So it actually has one less shell than a Pudel. But of course, it's got better on other stats, like the fact is it's got a better DPM than the others. So that's why it's better off. So let's have a look at the frontal armor. That's where the shell hit there. And of course, it's got an impacted armor of 85mm, but it's 114.9. And unfortunately, that's not going to work for an SU-8 because it won't penetrate that much armor. It's far too strong on the front of the vehicle. Lower plate, 50mm coming up to 100. The front of the turret is 100mm, giving 100mm. The mantlet, though, look at that. It's 110, giving 110. In fact, I seem to recall that most of the British gunners worked out that if you could actually fire a round into the mantlet or the bottom part of the mantlet of a Panther, you could get the shell to deflect down into the tank and it would easily penetrate it. I think it was one of the tricks they learned after a while, that they kept hitting Panthers and either the shell wouldn't penetrate the mantlet or they would put the shell in just the right spot and it would just deflect downwards into the tank and kill either the driver or somebody in the tank as it was. So yes, a little trick that they came up with. Sides of the vehicle are only 50mm, but it's very flat, as you can see. Well, flat-ish, slight angling, but it's not going to aid you much. 50 going up to 60. Size of the turret are 45mm going up to 50. And the rear of the turret is only 45mm, basically giving the same. The rear of the vehicle, 40mm, giving 51. Top deck of the vehicle, 16mm. Top of the turret, 16mm. You should be able to penetrate it if you can get the shell to land on top of the vehicle. But if it hits the front, yeah, I'm afraid the armor is probably going to stop it. If we look at the live, you can see from a 75mm shell, you should be able to penetrate the frontal armor on a Pudel. So if one of these comes up against another one of these, you should be able to penetrate it no problem. And of course, the weak spot is that, well, it supposedly is the cupola. It's showing here 100mm on the cupola, which actually does make it quite strong. But I always remembered or thought that that was one of the weak spots. It is showing as green, so presumably, yes, you could penetrate it under the right circumstances. Let's have a quick look at the modules. Okay, there you go. With the transmission in the front, the transmission drive, or drive going to the engine at the back. We've got the driver on the right-hand side, the radio operator on the left-hand side with the radio, and the ammo racks are on either side of the hull, the shoulders running back to the turret. There is, as you can see, the gunner is sitting on the right-hand side with the tank commander directly behind. So obviously you know the tank commander's there because that's where the cupola is. And on the opposite side of the tank, we've got the gunner shoveling the shells into the breech. At the back, we've got 3 fuel tanks, not 1, not 2 rather. We've got 3. We've got 2 either side of the actual engine. Remember, the transmission's going up through the transmission tunnel all the way to the front. And there's another fuel tank right at the very back of the vehicle, just here. Now, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of exhaust pipes that come up directly next to the fuel tank. I'm not sure if they're supposed to warm the fuel or they're just coming up there for expediency's sake. But yes, I seem to recall there were 3 exhaust tanks that come up at the back. I think we might actually be able to see that if we had the right... no, it's not that one. It's not X-ray. It's not modules. It's skin, I think, if I can... No, it's not that. Options. Texture. I can't find the appropriate count, but it's not showing the, you can see that it's not actually showing the texture of the vehicle, but it would if I was showing the, yes, that's the open version. No, it's not showing it to me. If I go back here, let's have a quick look. We can see the 3D model here, and we go to the visual model. And there we go, there's the visual model, and yes, you can see there are 3 exhaust pipes right next door to that fuel tank at the back of a Panther. And the thing is, the thing I remember about this is that there's a manual port somewhere at the back. I think it may be one at either of these holes, where you can actually stick in the rod and manually start the thing, you know, crank the engine over. And there's a rod somewhere located on the side of this vehicle to do that. And the thing I remember is that you had to have 2 people to get the thing to crank over enough to get it started up. It may have been just around about here. And the moment you do get a start and they pull the lever, which actually engages the flywheel onto the actual engine, you get covered in exhaust fumes that comes flying out of the engine as it engages. So not a great experience, because you then have to wind yourself up and you're getting extremely tired whilst you're doing that. And then one of the men stops turning the thing and pulls the lever, and the other guy gets blasted in the face with exhaust fumes. Very nice. Anyway, yeah, these things, they're sent to try us. So I hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.